Welcome to Off the Rickshaw, the podcast where three South Asian millennials slow down, speak up, and sound completely off. We're not here to explain our culture. We're here to live it, we're here to question it, and we're here to laugh through it. Whether it be family drama to first generation pressures, Bollywood dreams, yes, I have those, to WhatsApp conspiracy theories, this is where heritage meets hot takes. We're just the kids who grew up eating biryani at weddings and bagels at brunch, who were told to be doctors but I guess ended up doing this. We're navigating identity, ambition, relationships, and weird limbo of being too brown for the West and too Western for the East. If you've ever had to translate chai as TT, or if your parents have ever said "Log kya kahenge" louder than "I love you," you're at the right place. So basically, think of this episode or this podcast as Joe Rogan meets your favorite cousin's living room. It's real talk with real masala, deep convos, dumb jokes, and your occasional midlife breakthrough. So let's hop in, take a seat. Boys, this is Off the Rickshaw. Let's ride. How are we all feeling right now?
Good, I'm amped.
Let's
I'm
do
amped to get
this.
this
I mean,
started.
Hussein, why don't you kick us off? Let the people know who you are.
Yeah, I'm real quick. I'm Hussein, really opinionated guy on a bunch of different topics, but I'm also eager to learn as well. That's important. Um, for me, I'm a huge sports fan. Basketball, I think basketball, football, baseball, and sports. Starting to get into hockey a
Every
little bit.
sport. You watch a
Um,
sport and Hussein knows the
a,
stat.
a little bit of it. Cricket too. I'm a big cricket fan, although Pakistan's not really been giving me much cause to cheer for recently. Um, but yeah, huge sports fan. I'm a huge fan of animals as well. Like I just watch like random nature docs. I don't know if anyone else does that as well, but big fan of animals. I actually have a dog, Simba. So he's my little 8 pound ball of terror. He just runs around the house. and yeah, I'm a big sports fan. Love animals. I love food as well. I think South Asian cuisine obviously is probably my favorite type of cuisine. And yeah, those are just a little bit of fun facts about me. I'm a big travel guy as well. I love traveling. I've been to really cool places around the world by the grace of God. So thankfully, I've been able to see some really amazing places and meet amazing people and experience different, cool cultures and whatnot. And we'll definitely talk about that as in maybe in later episodes and whatnot. But yeah, that's just a small gist about who I am. So I'll pass it off to Samir now.
Yeah, thank you, Hussein. Yeah, my name's Samir. Yeah, a little bit about me. So I'm the oldest one of the group. I feel like the grandpa of the group. And I love sports, similar to Hussein. We're definitely going to get into a lot of debates and hot takes on this podcast, so don't worry about that. We're here for the hot takes. Other than that, I pride myself on, being fit and being into fitness. I play a lot of sports, soccer, basketball, whatever I can, get into. Really, I go for runs or go to like F45 for, for hit training. Um, so that's something I pride myself on, and something we'll obviously talk about here. And then traveling, we're all big on traveling, but myself,
Yeah.
I'm planning myself on a trip to go to Dubai in a couple of months, so I'm looking forward to that. And other than that, I'm a bit of a degenerate, so outside of work, I spend a lot of time, you know,
That's true.
with
That's true.
with
It's true.
It's true.
with sports betting. Well, when I'm not at the casino with these guys, I'm there like sports betting online and whatnot. So I'm here for the thrill.
The amount of the
Um,
amount of the amount of fantasy squads and like betting this guy does, it's like a whole side business.
it really is. It takes up too much of my time. I'm trying to cut it down from that because, like, honestly, now that I'm married, uh, I gotta like spend a little bit more time with wifey.
We got into this early, but in my intro, I said occasional midlife breakthrough. This is it. This is what we were talking about.
Yeah, but that's a bit about me. Mubin, I'll pass it off to you.
Yeah, I mean, appreciate it. So you have the Starbucks, small, medium, large. I'm the youngest in the group. I learned from these guys. These guys have been my brothers growing up. I'm a huge music geek. I love music. I don't have a favorite genre. I listen to everything based off of my emotions. I love choral music all the way to hip hop and rap. I love movies. I love adventure. I'm a huge food junkie too. I love different cuisines. Um, For me, I'm first generation as well, so a lot of my upbringing was just figuring out what comes next without kind of having someone to speak about it with. But I had a good set of community, good set of brothers that I, look up to, and Hussein and Samir, obviously one of two of those. And honestly, I'm here just to kind of talk about the different opinions and perspectives that these guys bring to the table, and kind of mix that with my perspective as well, and see what am I not knowing, and what can I know. We spoke about this earlier as we were debriefing or ideating on this specific podcast, but one of the main themes that came out of that was we want to learn how to be responders, not reactors, being able to hear different perspectives even if we don't agree with them, and being able to understand where they come from, appreciating and acknowledging different stories, different backgrounds. And with that, maybe it'd be good to talk about why we're doing this specific podcast, Off the Rickshaw. Samir, did you want to kind of set the tone?
Yeah, for sure. As we were ideating earlier, I think a big portion for me of why I wanted to do this is, just having those deep conversations. I think that's something that I've always loved. I can remember having conversations as a kid, just talking about real deep philosophical discussions and real life stuff. And as I'm getting older, I feel like I'm having less and less of that as people are getting busier, people are having kids and, busy with life. Um, Having less of those conversations. And so this is a way for me to continue having those conversations and yeah, learning from one another. I think, there's a lot of tools for learning. People learn through, whether it's school or, online tools. But I think for me, a big portion of learning is through other people and having conversations. So I enjoy that. So looking forward to learning from you guys. And yeah, Hussein, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, man. Everything that you said, I kind of align with. For me, it's a learning opportunity as well to learn from you guys and from audience or viewers or whoever's kind of listening to this, and just exchanging ideas. I think that's an important part of society is exchanging ideas, whether you agree or disagree, but just having the right to say what you want to say and feel the way you want to feel, and just respecting everyone's kind of opinion at the end of the day. So I'm really looking forward to exploring where some of the conversations take us, be it soft topics or deep topics. I think we have like a flavor and a hunger for both. So I think it's going to be a fun podcast adventure with you guys. And if any guests come on, I think we'll have really great conversations with them as well. So yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to learning and kind of sharing a little bit about what I kind of know. Not a lot, whatever I've learned and picked up over my 30 years on this planet. So yeah, looking forward to that. What about you, Mubin? What do you think?
I mean, I'm not going to repeat anything that you guys said. I think both of you guys said, exactly what the purpose of this podcast was,
Yeah.
not just for us individually, but, as a unit, but also those who are listening. So if you're listening to this, what you can expect is basically, personal anecdote, how we've experienced different life situations, based off of different themes of life, different life stages. All three of us right now on this call are in different life stages. And so
Yeah.
for me, as the youngest, it's very cool to be listening to someone who's much older than me, who's gone through a lot of the life situations that, I perhaps will go through in the future. And then someone who is just,
Going through it.
a couple of years and then a few years. So, I'm excited. Kind of segueing from Hussein, from your point of guests, I mean, what are we going to be expecting over the next couple of weeks, months? How are we going to be kind of having these conversations on the topics and stuff?
Yeah, I think as we kind of build on this, as I mentioned before, we're going to be doing light topics, deep topics, but as Samir and I mentioned before, we're huge sports fans, so there will be sports topics. Mubin, I know you're very much into digital and digital health. I think that's something I want to know and learn more about. So I think that's an area that I'd like to explore and learn. I know Samir is pretty well versed in finance related issues and matters as well. So I think that's something that we'd like to learn more about. And then also just like philosophy, I think like all three of us have really cool philosophical outlook on life, on religion, on our faith and whatnot. So I think we have like a really cool mix of different topics, both light and deep, that we can kind of venture into. So I think that's what the audience can expect over the next few weeks, is just to get a different flavor of different type of topics, because we're very well versed and we have a really good range. I feel like the three of us, and we have really cool friends that can also kind of join in and speak on different things. So I'm really excited. I think sky's definitely not just the limit for where this podcast can go and the topics that we can kind of talk about and bring the audience on this journey with us. So what about you, Samir? What do you think?
Yeah, I echo all of that. Everything you said, I agree with. I think what listeners can expect from us is uh, like just real life thoughts on all of this. We were talking earlier, but Mabine was saying it's not just talking about like what's happening. You know, we're not just here to tell you the news or what's happening like with politics
Right,
or what's happening in sports. It's how it's impacting us.
right,
Like with tariffs going on, like how's that impacting us individually?
right.
Whatever the topic is, like what are we feeling with that? So I think that's what listeners can expect from us. Just getting our thoughts and our feel for it. So yeah.
I mean, talk about. I mean, when I think about that on the ground feel, there's so much media, there's so much propaganda, there's so much personal agenda out there. I've been thinking about this a lot. I mean, how much does the news and the media really
Mm-hmm.
contribute to our mindset and our thinking
Yeah,
process, right? Like,
yeah,
it's everywhere. We're on our phone all the time. We're scrolling. We see news outlets. There's even like those. You have your prominent news sources like the CP24s and the CTVs and the Globals, and then you have the news that's like more city based. You have the Six Buzz, and you have the Toronto City News, and the news sources are scaling from the influencer level all the way to the large media level. All these things impact us, but I think what we tend to forget is that your friends, your family all have perspectives on what's going on in the news, and for us to have this podcast is a manifestation of how we can create a community to talk about how this impacts us on the floor, each other, and how we can ultimately support one another. I think our goal would be for listeners to listen to this and then message us afterwards or meet us afterwards and tell us how they thought we did, or
yeah.
the thoughts that we said, and how do they resonate with that? Do they resonate with that? And if they don't, then
Why?
hearing
Yeah.
them out and bringing that back to the podcast, and talking about what we're hearing from others in the similar community. So yeah, I mean that would be amazing for us. I mean, I know that I'm being influenced by the media.
Yeah, definitely. I think the media is huge. For the biggest portion of my life, like I've tried to block out media. I've never really paid attention to the news. Like my parents are always up watching CP24. I'm like, why are you watching that? Like it's just negative stuff. Like what value is it bringing to you? But then, you were saying like media looks different nowadays, like Instagram, with, Six Buzz, whatever. I think we're all being influenced to a certain degree.
Yeah.
I think it's important to be aware of what's going on out there. There's a lot of like harsh realities right now happening in all like portions of the world, and I think it's important for us to be aware of it. I think it can definitely feel overwhelming to some people, and if people are feeling that, I don't blame them, but being aware of that. But I think it's just like figuring out how much media you're absorbing and what to really do about that. What can you actually action from that? So
Yeah, you brought up a good point about people feeling overwhelmed, but I think that's why, we need to have these kind of things, like these podcasts, these like discussion boards, these topics. Like I think, talking about these topics, I think is important because like for people who are feeling overwhelmed, like what's their gateway to kind of releasing some of those, those thoughts that they have. Like, and I think through discussion and conversation, this would be the way to do it, right? It would be about exchanging ideas, finding out, being more informed about things, and kind of learning from different people. I think that's the best way if you're feeling overwhelmed, is to kind of talk about it and kind of share your ideas and what you're feeling, and see how others can kind of support you and how you can learn and grow as an individual. So I think that was a good point you made.
And I mean, going back to the main podcast, I mean, that is why. So for those listeners who want to know why we thought of Off the Rickshaw as the main kind of name for our podcast, we basically, with how the process worked, was we all thought of names and then we put it in, and then we had a democratic
Basically,
process
hold on. I
determining one that worked.
no. Basically, Mobeen was super hyped about this name and kind of shoved it on.
Okay, but let me tell you, but let me tell you kind of the thinking process of the name, right?
Yeah,
So
it's a good
when you think about so if you think about sitting in an Uber or like if you so when I was in Uganda, and we'll talk about this in future episodes, but when I sat in behind a boda driver, boda driver,
What?
one of the when you think about conversations, these individuals who are driving Ubers, rickshaws, bodas, like they're always wanting to start conversation with you, and
Yep.
they're willing to share their opinions. They're usually raw and very candid because they're individuals who are struggling, who are hustling, who are trying to make money in order to support their families and their friends. And so, they don't have this woke political mindset. It's very candid. This is what I think. How are you? What are you doing? And so when I was thinking of, potential names for how we could, base this conversation, I thought, we want to be individuals that have the same conversations with our Boda drivers and Uber drivers, and which is raw, which is candid, which is fun. It's, a lot of the times these drivers are making jokes and, talking smack. And I wanted to carry that theme into that podcast. And the reason why it's a rickshaw, I mean, let's be real, we're three brown guys. So what is that one common source of transportation that we're all three aware of? So Off the Rickshaw is just a tribute to individuals in our society who are very candid, very raw, who are willing to have deep conversations, but follow that up with dumb jokes. And we'll still, at the end of the day, even if they don't like your perspective, well, guess what? They'll still drop you to your destination, right? Like, they're not just going to stop at the side of the street and kick you out. No, they're going to listen to you, whatever you have to say, drop you to your destination and move on. And I guess that is the type of mentality that we should also hold. If you don't like something that someone has said, you either ask why they think like that or try to understand their perspective. But honestly, the best kind of feedback that I've got is, if you're trying to tell someone something and they're not listening, walk away, just walk away. You don't need to engage in arguments or fights or involve violence. It's just, that's beneath you. And so I guess this is a tribute to those individuals. And I guess when you guys all get onto the rickshaw, that's the type of conversations, that's the conversations that we want to have. And hopefully we will be able to cater to those type of conversations.
Yes.
Definitely. As somebody who was very much against the podcast name, I've kind of gotten on board. I've gotten on the rickshaw with this idea. So
let's go. Let's ride.
On the rickshaw. But it's a cool name, and the whole theme of the journey and then getting to your destination. That can be felt in many different ways, and having real conversations along the way to our destination. I think that's a very good theme for what we're trying to do out here.
Right.
And to Mubin, your point, people, who might be very opinionated or against your certain thoughts. I think one thing I've learned recently is that it's very important to get other people's perspective, like the opposite perspective, because that's truly testing your own opinions is the only way you really know if your opinions are right or wrong. You'll either cement your opinions or you'll change your opinion. And I think either way, it's value added. So I agree.
And I know, Hussein, we've spoke about this in the past, but I want to know your kind of perspective on that too.
I completely agree that finding out the opposite point of view is important. We've all talked about cancel culture. I don't really believe in it. I don't subscribe to it. I think it's regardless of what the other person's saying, I think they have the right to say it. Living in a democratic free country, free and quotation marks, but you know what I mean. I think it's important that you engage with the other side and you engage with different opinions, because the challenges is your own, and then it forces you to do research and to think and to look beyond within what you kind of just know in this box that you kind of live in. And I think it's important to engage with people who have a different mindset, a different point of view, and I don't think people should be demonized or canceled for having an alternative point of view.
And I've also come to sense, when you're in environments where everyone's opinions or perspectives are the same, you guys are all believing in the same thing. Which is, I mean, to one side, that is your sense of community because you guys all agree and you guys are common, allies in quotations. But at the end of the day, that is not the full picture. I think context has a whole play in this. I think complexity has a whole thing to play with this. There's different tangents of life that are kind of flowing in different directions that to have something to play with this. So, when you make a statement, we have to question, where did that statement come from? Where, what are the foundation bases of that statement, and how does it stand true for others versus how it doesn't stand true for many. So I think that is what we're going to try to kind of tackle through these podcast episodes. And something that I just realized now is that although all of us are millennials in like the category of, we're all millennials, but at different time phases.
Yeah.
Like for example, I'm a very late millennial. Like I would argue definitionally, I think 96 falls between the border of millennial and Gen Z. And so, versus Samir, kind of you're at the start, not at the start, but like earlier start of millennial. And so your kind of understanding, opinions, life stage, and what you were exposed to is very different than myself. And so I'm really curious to poke that side as well and see. And then Hussein, kind of you fall in the middle.
I'm like in the middle. So. Yeah. Haji's definitely the pioneer. So
it's going to be interesting because like I've thought about that. How I grew up was so much more different than probably how you grew up. Like, technology was just in the beginning stages when I was in school and growing up. But like you guys, when you guys were younger, you guys had cell phones earlier, you guys had computers earlier, and just technology in general. Like I can only imagine nowadays for Gen Zers, like ChatGPT and AI is such a thing, but like that wasn't a thing when I was a kid. So it's like getting your guys' perspectives on like, you know, on tech and like you said, being like the different stages and how we grew up with all these different things. I think it'll be interesting to learn.
yeah, I completely agree. And then being like kind of the one in the middle, it's interesting to kind of you know understand from like people from who are Samir's age and then people from Obin's age, like the differences. But then I'm also in the middle of that like millennial phase. So it'll be interesting, I think, to see how we kind of approach different topics based on where we were at different points in our lifetimes. And um, yeah, I know as Mobeen said, like he's getting married soon. Samir and I are already married, so it's like an interesting like dichotomy, like we're at different life points. You might be thinking about kids and stuff, but Mobeen's not there yet. So that's like it's a really interesting dynamic that even though like it's such a broad term in millennials, but within like that millennial group, like there's different stages within that group.
Yeah, and I guess the entire, as we move forward within this podcast, there are going to be individuals that we perhaps bring on that, might actually be part of the baby boomers or Gen X,
Yeah.
or might even be younger than all three of us and might
Yeah.
actually be Gen Z, but are just absolutely killing it in whatever they're doing. And I guess the perspective would be for us to listen to them and see where they come from and acknowledge their backgrounds. And you know what, like just to make it a little more spicy, kind of go against their opinion a little bit and see how what they have to say about that as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, just by the past 23 minutes, if you're a listener, you probably already got a chance to hear the multiple themes that we're already thinking about, from life stages to generational gaps and to technology and AI, all the way to sports. And, there's commonalities between all three of us when it comes to food and what we like. A huge part of all of our lives that we all love is travel and getting involved and integrated into different cultures and societies. All three of us really like nature and hikes and going out. And so throughout these episodes, we'll dedicate one episode to a specific theme and take different tangents on that specific episode, but ultimately remaining on the foundations of that theme. And with that, we'll pair different people who might be experts in that specific category or that specific theme, or individuals who just love it and have this deep drive and passion to talk about it even more than any three of us could. Is that fair to say? I want to say, is that fair to say, chat? Like we're streamers?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think that's a really good like thoughts on like what listeners can expect from us for the next few weeks or few months. I'm like really interested into getting down into it, into like really having those real conversations. So I
Yeah,
mean,
I
now
can't
that
wait.
we've passed the intro, like should we start getting into like some of the stuff? Like, I don't know, like what's kind of coming back to, you know, some of the thoughts that about having real conversations. What are some conversations that you guys have had recently that you might have sparked a debate? Or I know Hussein, we had this huge LeBron debate, but outside of
That's
that,
that's
like what are
daily.
some yeah, fair. Outside of that, what are some heavy conversations that you guys have had recently that might have questioned your opinion or changed your opinion or solidified your opinion?
Yeah, it almost feels like we're giving a little bit of a sneak peek of
Sneak
the type of
peek.
conversations that we can have. But something that I've been thinking about a lot is this illusion of time.
Mm,
As I get older, things are changing at a rapid pace. Adoption is becoming very important, and by that I mean like just adopting to different times, different moments, fairly quickly. I'm seeing my younger sister grow up so quickly. I'm seeing, the relationship time length of me and my partner expand and grow, and for us to learn about more about each other as time goes on. Career progression is part of this as well. And so in part of all of this, there are as we get older, we also tend to hear more about death and this experience of people leaving this earth,
mhm.
and individuals that we've had deep connections with, not only in their 60s, 70s, or 80s, but even people that we're hearing about that die in their 30s and 40s. And so for me, I'm thinking about this illusion of time. How are we making sense of this concept? Is the 9 to 5 really it, or do we need to and I know for like being the tail end of millennials and almost touching Gen Z, something that we're thinking about a lot is number one, passive sources of income, and then number two, we're thinking about is do we do a 9 to 5, or do we work based off of the quality of the work, right? And so we're seeing a lot of Gen Zs do consulting work, whether it be media and making content, all the way to consultants writing reports and delivering reports for as consultants and so forth. So there's so many things that I'm thinking about, but one of the deep things that I've been thinking about on the top of my head is the concept or the illusion of time.
Yeah, and I think for me um, it's a bit different from my perspective, but I just went on a trip to the northern areas of Pakistan. So I came back thinking like, are we, there's this concept of like first world and third world and all that, and which is a very Western kind of perspective. And for me, I was kind of thinking like, are we truly like better off here? And I was just having that conversation with my parents the other day, and my wife. I was talking to her a little bit about it. Like the people over there in the northern areas, they don't have much like in terms of material access to things, but physically, mentally, I mean, they're like this is based in like in evidence and fact as well. They're like one of the most healthiest people on the planet when it comes to physical health and mental health, and they live long lives. Depression and like, disease and it is almost like non-existent over there. Um, and they just seemed so happy when I was there. Like they just seemed very happy with like just enjoying each other's company. Whereas I look here and everybody's kind of like stressed and frantic and on their phones and everyone's like worrying all the time and disease is rampant here, mental and physical disease. I mean, it's just I'm just like wondering like I was just talking to my parents like like are we truly blessed to be here or like you know what I mean? It's just like and I'm not saying like we shouldn't be like count our blessings to be here. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm just like in terms of like that first world, third world, like we seem to like think, that people in those parts of the world are not better off. Like are they like those are the kind of the questions I was having that it just seemed like there was no bad thing to celebrate such a simple life over there, and I feel like that's kind of been lost. And we just had a really great conversation at the dinner table the other day about some of those things, and throughout the trip and when we got back, it's like are we truly happy here versus people in other parts of the world? So I think that's what it boils down to is
Real
like
topic.
what is happiness? Like if you really have to think about it. So I think those are some of the things that were kind of popping up to my mind and thinking, some of the internal debates that I was having and trying to challenge myself and so.
Yeah, that's a great point, Hussein. I think some of the thoughts that I'm having recently is kind of like a merge between both of those points between Mubin and Hussein. It's kind of like time and happiness. Like, like for me, like up until this point in my life, I've been like really like just shooting straight. I've just been like working hard, just kind of, what's the next step? What's the next step? complete high school, then you go to, college and university, and then after that you get your first job, and then, you work your way up. And then I've been so busy climbing that ladder, and then now I'm just like, am I on the right ladder? Like, or like, like what am I really trying to do? So I'm at that stage in life. It's like, what will make me happy? Um, you know, I love the fact that people are pursuing their passion projects. I know Mobeen has his, doses of adventure, and I myself, I DJ on the side, and Hussein, he goes to the gym and he does, Muay Thai and all that. So we all have our passion projects, and I love that that's become a thing nowadays. I think people deserve that, and especially if you can turn that into, passive income as well, or a side source of income. But I think, yeah, to your point, Hussein, we really need to think about what makes us happy, and pursue that, because I think a lot of people, they just kind of get caught up in like the day-to-day kind of stuff, but they don't zoom out and see the big picture of what
Yeah.
will actually make them happy.
Yeah.
You heard it first. This is Off the Rickshaw, and we're so thrilled to have you listening to us, and I'm so thrilled to be with Hussein and Samir doing this. And so with this, I want to hop off the rickshaw, and this is where again conversations are chaotic, but they're comforting, and it's almost like a family WhatsApp group chat at 2 a.m. And until next time, I want all of you to stay brown, stay loud, and stay a little unfiltered. Until next time.
Yeah, everyone.